Okay, so these are some of the tickets which we are going to cover today. First is run activity reporting and find top 10 worst performing business rules over 30 seconds. So let us see where to find this top 10 worst performing business rule, which will which will take over 30-second time. Okay, let's start with our application. Here under application overview, if you see on the top panel, here it is, first tab is overview, where you can see the name of the application, description, what is the application type. Under cube, you can see which two cubes are there, like console and rates. Under dimensions, you can see what all dimensions are there in the FCCs. And the fourth tab is activity reports, where we have some reports already being generated. When we'll view that report, here you will see the runtime. Click on that, and there comes the table of all the reports, like calc scripts by execution. So how many calc scripts are there, how much is the total duration of running that script. Similarly, here you will see the dimension for rates, BSO, and other things. Now we'll search for our top 10 worst performing business rules over 30 seconds, which takes over 30 seconds, right? So here we cannot find in this particular activity. Okay, so this, if you see the top 10 longest performing business rule over 30 seconds. So these are some of the business rule which when we run it, it takes more than 30 seconds to execute. So the first is refresh database post process rates. If you see, this is the beginning time of this is 15:40:16, and it end time is 15:41:56. That is the total duration it takes to run is 1 minute 40 seconds, which is too long. Similarly, the consolidate rule, here it takes 39 seconds. Similarly, the other, like refresh database rule, if you see delegate post process console, here it takes 36 seconds. All are all over and above 30 seconds. So there are these are some of the business rule which takes the longest time to run. Now we'll see the other ticket, that is, after October month trial balance load, consolidation become very slow. Clear empty blocks and check the performance. So here how we'll see this, first we need to run the consolidation, and we'll check the timing, that if we do not clear our blocks, how much time it takes to run the business rule. And then after clearing the empty block rule, and then we'll again see the consolidation timing. So the consolidation timing will get reduced, and that means the performance will get increased. Now we'll see how this is the purpose of this ticket. Now we'll see how that works. Okay, so we'll connect it with some application. Okay, now maybe this is the entity which I have taken at E101, E102, and this is our total E100 is the parent entity, and in B column we have all the accounts, and in A column we have all the line by line item movements for those particular account, and rest all dimensions are the base one, and the year is FY15 and the period is January. Similarly, for 102, we have taken all the base level members, and for FY15 and January, and the currency for both is entity currency. Okay. Now we'll load some data random numbers just to run the consolidation and see our result. All right, so these are some of my numbers, and then we'll submit the data. Okay, so I've just entered the random numbers. Because of that, our balance sheet is not tallied. So right now our focus is to just run the consolidation. Here the numbers are not populating, rolling over to the parent entity. Now we'll run the consolidation for that. All right, so first we'll check the ownership structure of that particular entity. All right, so my entity is E101, E100, actual FY15 and January. Okay. All right, so I'll make East 101 as my holding and East 102 as my subsidiary, and the ownership percentage is 80%. So I'll just save it, and I'll just recompute the ownership structure. Okay. Now we'll run the business rule for this particular entity. Consolidate. Okay, fine, we can run over here. So this is my entity, period, scenario and year, launch. Okay, now we'll check in the job. Okay, so consolidation is complete. Okay, so the numbers are populated in the are rolling over to the top parent. So the bank checking account, this is our holding, this is our subsidiary. So if we see, the numbers are getting added up for all the assets and liabilities and the common stock. It just picks up the parent company number, that is 35,000. Sorry, the holding company number, that is the 35,000. It eliminates this one, 22,500 of the subsidiary company. Okay, fine. Now the consolidation works fine. Now we'll see the consolidation timing, how much time it took to run this consolidation. So if you can see the start time and end time, we'll just take a screenshot just to compare the pre and post one process. If you see, this much is the time taken by the application to run the consolidation rule, and these are the some of my what do you call it, dimensions, like for this particular intersection, entity, period, scenario and year. We'll just go and paste that, so it will be easy for us to compare. Okay, so this much time it took to run the consolidation. If you see, this is just a one for one period and one subsidiary. If you can now imagine, if there are multiple subsidiary, a very complex structure is there, like it may be a chain holding subsidiaries, it may be a single line subsidiaries, it may be multiple subsidiaries, and so many periods will be there. Like for full year, if consolidation will be learned, so many data will be loaded, how much time it will take, right? So now to reduce that time, this first new feature of the FCC is how to improve the performance or reduce the consolidation time. We'll see under rules. If you see, there's a clear empty block rule. See, if you see the description, this is a rule to clear the empty blocks. This rule is for stand-alone execution. Now if we launch this rule, our scenario is actual. We need to give the same intersection. Here is FY15 and the period is Jan. Launch. Okay, so this clear empty block rule was run successfully. Now after running this rule, when we run the consolidation rule, let us see now if there's any improvement in the timing or not. Okay, so our entities, total geography, period Jan, scenario actual, and year FY15. Launch. Application, jobs. Now if you see, the time got reduced. Now if you see somewhat time got reduced by this. Now this is the purpose of clearing the cube. As this is a demo application, many users are constantly working on it. That's why this is the case that we cannot see the so much reduction in time. Otherwise, you can see a huge improvement. Like this was the case when nobody was using the like a very less users were using the application, and this was the time when we run the consolidation before clearing cube. So the consolidation time was this much, 49 to 58 seconds it took, right? Approximately 9 seconds. And after clearing cube and running the consolidation again, the consolidation time got reduced and it improved the performance. If you see the 2020, say it executed very fast. So you can see how much useful is this, like how if you know this rule and you can run it and you can see the reduction in the timing. Okay, so this was our second ticket. It works, this rule actually works when you have a complex scenarios, multiple entities, multiple periods. In that case, it plays a very important role. Now these two are done. Third, we'll see consolidation become very slow, restructure dense cube and check the performance. Okay. All right, so this is our entity and we have already run the consolidation. We have that screenshot. Now we'll check in the application. We need to restructure. First we need to see the average clustering ratio. What is that? So under application, consolidation, here under consolidation process, you can see the final calculation here at the bottom. So when we click on that, under actions, we need to see the database properties. So this is our database. If you see in the under statistics, the average clustering ratio is 0.51. So basically, if your average clustering ratio is approximately to 1, so it is very good for the application. But if it is very less than 1, then you need to restructure your cube, right? So we have already seen the consolidation time before doing the restructure, and now we'll restructure the cube. We'll restructure it so as to improve this average clustering ratio, just to increase our performance, improve our performance. Okay, so what we need to do, under jobs, schedule jobs. Here if you see restructure cube, and I'll just run it now. Next, my cube is console. Next, so it is processing. Just wait for some few minutes. Okay, it got completed. Now we'll see the average clustering ratio. So see here, if you see the Aura docs, here it is. Check the value of average clustering ratio. If the displayed value is 1 maximum or close to it, a restructuring is not required. If the value is much lower, for example this, you must restructure the cube to defragment it. Before running this command, ensure that no one is using the application. Okay, now we'll check our average clustering ratio. Alright, under statistics. Okay, now you can see our average clustering ratio before restructuring the cube was 0.51, which was not good. Now after restructuring the cube, it got increased to 0.98. Okay, now let us run the console and see the timing. So if you see, after restructuring the queue, and you see the reduction in consolidation timing and the improvement in the performance, it runs so quickly. See, it got completed within 1 second, which is very fast. Now if you compare earlier, this much was the time which it was taking to run the consolidation. Now if you can easily compare, this was the consolidation time which was taken earlier, and now this is after restructuring the cube, that is the cubes which are not, the blocks which are not getting used currently, it will just restructure it and will eliminate and calculate it fast, right? So this was the logic. So that's why our consolidation time get reduced, and it will improve our performance. Okay, so this was the purpose of the third ticket. This is also done. Now we'll see calculate movement from closing balance input, configure account dimension with default movement. Now let us see how this will work. Basically for this, alright, so here first we'll connect to the instance. All right. Now, generally, what we used to do when we do not enable the default movement property, how this is different, I'll explain you. Uh, Whenever we load the data, either from Smart View or through forms or through data management, whatever is the medium of data load, you load either if this is the account, you load in this particular movement. You always define the intersection, like this is my account, this is my movement, these are my other dimensions. But if we enable the default movement property rule, in that case you do not have to define each and every movement for those particular accounts, right? You can just directly pick the closing balance input as your one movement and load onto that particular movement for all the accounts. And when you see the result after enabling the default movement property, you need to you will see the result that your account gets associated with that particular movement, which should be the correct one, right? So but how the system will pick that particular correct movement? So we need to enable something, and then we need to enable our movement as default movement, yes, and set that movement for that particular account. So we'll freeze that particular movement in the application for that particular account. And because of that, while loading the data, that is a one-time application, a one-time configuration. So when you load it, you do not have to every time pick and choose the movement, the correct movement for your particular, for your all accounts. You need to just load on the closing balance input and see the result. Right now we'll see how that will work. Okay, instead of loading here to all the movements, I'll just pick one movement. That movement is closing balance input. All right. So this is my closing balance input. Here I'll load it as, I'll just randomly load the numbers. All right. So this is the movement closing balance input. These are my accounts. These are all the base level members. Okay, submit. Okay, now what we need to do in the application? Okay, now under application, consolidation, here under consolidation process, if you see the calculate movement, what it says, calculate and populate a default movement dimension member based on the required closing balance. Here we need to enable this as yes. Okay, now we need to go to the movement. Okay, so we need to define that this should be my default movement. Okay, so according to the accounts we have chosen, we'll define the movements. Alright, so first is bank checking account. So then the movement for this particular account should be the movement FCCs movement cash, right? So we'll enable it, means we'll edit it. Under attributes value, we need to define this as our default movement. So default movement, yes, add, okay, and save. Similarly for building and improvements also. Now building and improvement belong to my movement investing activity. So I'll choose FCC's movement capital expenditure and we'll define it as default movement. Similarly for payable to bank, I'll pick from accounts payable. We can pick the other current liabilities as well, or the accounts payable. So I'll maybe right now I'll enable this as my default movement. Save. Now the fourth account is common stock. So from financing activity, here is the movement issue of stock. Default movement, yes, add and save. You can even enable the FCC's movement net income for all the P&L. Default movement, yes. Okay, so now we'll go to the account dimension and define for those account the selected default movement. Under cash and cash equivalent, this is my account, bank checking account. I'll edit it. Under attributes, so if you see here it says default movement. So when we open it, it will display the list for all the movements which we have selected that as default movement, yes. So for this is my bank checking account, so this should be my movement. I'll define that in system. Now for this particular account, this movement is freezed. Save. Okay, so here the time balance, we change it to flow. All right, now my next account is building an improvement. Okay, so this is my building an improvement. I'll edit it. Here also the time balance should be flow, attributes, default movement, capital expenditure. Let us see here if this works for the balance or not. Save. No. So only time balance if it is flow, for that only you can define your default movement. All right, now third account is payable to bank. Under total liabilities and equity, current liabilities, account payable. See, here it is under accounts payable. We have the same movement for both. So maybe I have enabled right now the current liabilities. You can enable account payable movement also for this. Edit. Attribute value, a default movement as other current liabilities. Save. Now one is my, these three I have assigned. Now these three are remaining. That is, one is common stock, which is under total equity. Okay, so this is my account, common stock. Here I'll define issue of stock as the default movement. Save. Now the remaining two which are left are the P&L items. One is revenue domestic. I'm searching for that account. Under continuing operation income, under pre-tax income. Now under operating income, under gross profit, under sales. Okay, so maybe this is our account, revenue domestic. Correct. So we'll edit it. attribute values and define it as changes in net income. Similarly for that other also, that is the cost of sales. Okay, so labor burden cost. If you define this as net income, just save it. Now we have changed so much, so we'll refresh our database as there's a change in the member properties. Parallelly, we need to run the console to roll up to the parent, and now we'll see for that particular movements whether the data is coming for that particular movements or not. So for bank checking account, our movement. Okay, so I think in the earlier sheet we have already done those all movements. These all are the movement except changes in accounts payable. Okay, so the data right now it is not populating. First we'll change the payable to bank. We haven't assigned accounts payable, we have assigned the movement as other current liabilities. Now go back to the application. I think the refresh got completed. Let us check in the job application job. Okay, so the refresh database completed. Refresh. Okay, so we cannot see the result over here. Now we need to run the consolidation. Okay, so consolidate is complete. Okay, now if you see here, like the data we loaded at closing balance input, and we defined this changes in cash in the application. So after running the consolidation, it pick this as its movement, default movement, and displays the correct result. Like bank checking account was my account, and the movement while loading, at the time of loading, I have picked closing balance input and loaded 10,000 in East 101 and 31,000 in East 102. So after running, after configuring all the features, like the movement, I defined it as default movement and associated that default movement with that particular account, and the run, then refresh database was done, and then consolidation was run. After that, for this bank checking account, the movement, default movement defined was changes in cash, so this displays the correct result as 10,000 and 31,000. So this is the purpose of the default movement rule. Means you do not have to worry about at the time of loading. This is a one-time configuration. When you can just, if you enable the default movement rule, you need to define the movements for that particular account in your application, and then when for every month when you load your trial balance, you just go ahead and load at closing balance input and see the correct result for that particular movement. Right, now we'll see why the data is not populating at this E100. The thing is, we need to see the result for at the closing balance input while you see the, when you input the numbers, but at closing balance, I think you need to see the result. Okay, see at the closing balance you can see the total of these two, right? So basically, I'll just summarize it quickly. So when you load it, you load in closing balance input the numbers for these two entities, that is for holding and subsidiary, and at the parent company you need to see the result at closing balance. Then the number gets populated here, that is 10,000, 31,000, but the movement right now is closing balance. If you want to see those particular movements, you need to follow the process and check the result at your particular movements. It will display it correctly at both the levels, the parent as well as the holding and subsidiary level. So this is how our default movement property works, and with this we have completed our last ticket as well, that is calculate movements from closing balance input, configure account dimension with default movement. So this is also done. Okay, so today we are done with all these 4 tickets. If you have any query, please contact BISP. Thank you for your time. Bye bye.